The first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council was nothing like anyone expected. It happened on a Tuesday, which seemed ironically ordinary for such an extraordinary moment in human history. Juno Park stood in the massive conference hall, his dark blue diplomatic suit slightly wrinkled from the long preparation meetings. He was not the tallest person in the room, nor the most impressive. In fact, compared to the alien delegates, he looked almost comically small and fragile. The conference hall was a marvel of modern engineering, situated in the United Nations Interstellar Diplomatic Center in New York. Massive windows showed the bustling city outside, with flying vehicles and skyscrapers that seemed to touch the clouds. Inside, the room was a perfect blend of human technology and alien design. Smooth surfaces that shifted colors, holographic displays that flickered with complex data, and chairs that seemed to adjust to whoever sat in them. Kravik, the lead delegate of the Galactic Council, was a being made of what looked like living crystal. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the crystalline creature towered over Juno. Its body was a complex network of geometric shapes that seemed to shift and change with every movement. When Kravik spoke, it was like hearing wind moving through thousands of tiny glass tubes, musical, yet completely alien. Next to Kravik stood Aria, a Nebulan representative who appeared to be made of some kind of fluid substance. She, or it, constantly moved, changing shape like a living cloud. Sometimes Aria looked almost human, and then suddenly would become a swirling mass of glowing particles. The diplomatic team had been warned that Nebulans communicated through complex color and movement patterns, making communication challenging. The third delegate was Doran, a Zenthari with multiple limbs that moved with incredible precision. Each of Doran's 6 arms could move independently, manipulating holographic displays and communication devices simultaneously. The Zenthari's skin was a metallic blue, with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Shunho knew he was being studied. Every movement he made was being analyzed, every gesture carefully observed. He tried to stand straight, but he knew he looked awkward. His left hand kept fidgeting with the edge of his jacket, a nervous habit he had never been able to break. A small drop of sweat formed on his forehead, which he quickly wiped away. The aliens exchanged a series of quick glances, or what passed for glances in their unique physiologies. Kravik's crystalline body shifted slightly, creating a sound like wind chimes. Aria's fluid form rippled in what seemed like barely contained amusement. Doran's multiple arms moved in a complex pattern that looked like a mix between a mathematical equation and a dance. Humans are interesting, Kravik finally said, the word seeming to emerge from multiple points of its crystalline body. The translation device made the word sound almost mechanical, stripped of any real emotion. Shunho cleared his throat. "We are pleased to welcome the Galactic Council to Earth," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. What the aliens did not know was that Shunho had spent months preparing for this moment. He had studied their languages, their cultures, their bizarre communication methods. He had practiced every possible scenario, from peaceful negotiations to potential conflict resolution. But the aliens were not impressed. They saw a small human with nervous movements, someone who seemed constantly on the edge of tripping over his own feet. They saw a species that had only recently developed space travel, a civilization that seemed chaotic and unpredictable. Little did they know that humanity's apparent clumsiness was about to become its greatest strength. As the meeting continued, no one in the room, human or alien, could have predicted how dramatically their understanding of each other would change. The first contact was just the beginning of a story that would reshape the entire galaxy. Deep in the heart of a military base, located in the cold mountains of Alaska, Won Kim sat perfectly still. His eyes never moved, his breathing was controlled, and his body was a statue of pure concentration. Outside the small observation room, snow fell in thick, heavy flakes, covering the landscape in a blanket of white silence. The room was filled with screens and communication devices. Blinking lights, digital maps, and complex data streams covered every available surface. Most people would feel overwhelmed, but not Wong. He was in his element, watching, waiting, processing information faster than most computers could. Wong was not just a sniper. He was the result of years of specialized training that pushed human physical and mental capabilities to their absolute limits. The military had spent millions developing a program that could create the perfect long-range specialist, someone who could wait, observe, and act with split-second precision. The communication systems suddenly came alive with urgent messages. Something was happening in deep space, far beyond the reaches of human exploration. The screens flickered with strange signals, data that made no sense at first glance, but told a terrifying story to those who knew how to read it. The Void Swarm was moving. Most people would not understand what the Void Swarm meant. It was not a simple enemy. It was a nightmare that had destroyed entire civilizations across multiple galaxies. Imagine a living infection that could consume planets, that could change its shape and adapt faster than any known defense system. It was not just an enemy. It was a force of total destruction. Wong's team had been tracking the swarm's movements for months. Every piece of data, every tiny signal was collected and analyzed. They knew something big was coming, but nobody wanted to believe how bad it could be. The first reports came from the Xanthari home system. A massive, shapeless cloud began to consume their outer planets. Communication signals went dead. Entire planetary populations disappeared in moments. The Xanthari, a species known for their advanced technology and incredible defensive capabilities, were being wiped out without any chance to fight back. Juno Park was called into an emergency meeting at the United Nations Space Command. The diplomatic rooms that had seemed so calm during the first contact with the Galactic Council were now filled with tension and fear. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials moved quickly, their faces showing a mix of worry and determination. "The Void Swarm is moving faster than we predicted," said a senior military analyst. His hands moved quickly over holographic displays, showing the expanding area of destruction. "Our alien allies have no defense against this." Junho looked at the maps. He remembered the meeting with the Galactic Council, how they had looked down on humans. Now those same aliens were sending desperate messages asking for help. The irony was not lost on him. The Xanthari had been the most advanced military force in the known galaxy. They had weapons that could destroy entire star systems. They had defensive technologies that made human military equipment look like children's toys. And yet, they were being consumed by the Void Swarm like paper in a fire. Back in the Alaskan base, Wong continued to watch. He was not just watching the screens. He was calculating, predicting, understanding patterns that no computer could see. His mind worked differently. Where others saw chaos, he saw structure. Where others saw random movement, he saw potential strategies. The military had a plan. A crazy, almost impossible plan. And Wong Kim was going to be the key to that plan. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside the base, humanity prepared to face a threat that had destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than their own. Nobody knew if they would succeed, but they would try. Because that's what humans do. When faced with impossible odds, they don't give up. They adapt. They fight. And sometimes, they do the impossible. The Xanthari home system burned. Literally burned. Massive ships that once looked like works of art. Complex geometric structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics were now nothing more than floating pieces of metal and fire. The Xanthari had been proud of their advanced technology. They had believed no enemy could defeat them. Now, they were being erased from existence. The Void Swarm moved like a living nightmare. It was not a single creature or a single ship. It was something else entirely. Imagine a cloud that could think. A mist that could change shape. A darkness that could consume entire planets in moments. At the Galactic Council emergency meeting, panic was spreading. Kravik's crystal body flickered with fear, actual fear. The being that had looked down on humans just weeks ago now looked small and fragile. Area, The Nebulan representative could barely maintain her form. Her fluid body kept breaking apart and reforming, a sign of extreme stress. Doran, the multi-limbed Xanthari representative, was the worst off. Most of his species was already gone. Entire planetary populations had disappeared in less than an hour. Billions of lives gone in a moment. "We need a solution," Kravik said, its voice sounding more like breaking glass than actual speech. "Our best weapons are useless. Our most advanced defense systems do not even slow the void swarm down." Juno Park stood in the corner of the room. He was listening carefully, taking notes. The diplomatic suit he had worn during their first meeting now looked worn and wrinkled. He had been working nonstop since the first reports came in. The holographic displays showed the void swarm's progress. It was like watching a cancer spread across a star map. Red zones expanded quickly, showing systems that had been completely destroyed. Each red zone represented millions of lives lost. "We have tried everything," Arya said, her fluid form creating complex color patterns that showed deep frustration. "Our most advanced weapons do nothing. The void swarm adapts faster than we can attack. It learns. It changes. It consumes." Juno cleared his throat. The alien representatives looked at him. Their expressions, if you could call them expressions, showed nothing but tiredness and defeat. "What do you want, human?" Doran asked. His remaining arms moved slowly, each movement showing how tired he was. "I might have a suggestion," Junho said carefully. The room went silent. The holographic displays continued to show the expanding red zones, but for a moment, everything else stopped. Kravik's crystal body shifted, a suggestion, from a human. "After we saw how unprepared your species seemed during our first meeting." Junho did not get angry. He did not get defensive. He simply waited. "There is a special forces team," Junho said. "They have been preparing for something like this. Not this exact threat, but something close. A team that thinks differently. A team that does not follow traditional military thinking." Doran leaned forward. His remaining limbs moved with sudden interest. "Tell us more," he said. Junho began to explain about Wom Kim and the special sniper program. He explained how humans sometimes solve problems by thinking completely outside of normal logic, how their apparent weakness, their ability to be unpredictable, to make seemingly random choices, could actually be a strength. The Galactic Council listened. They had no other choice. The void swarm continued to spread, planets continued to die, and humanity prepared for its most important mission ever. A mission that would either save the galaxy or destroy everything in the process. The rifle looked like a mistake, a joke, a random collection of parts that should not work together. Wong Kim stood in the special testing facility, surrounded by alien engineers and human military experts. The weapon before them was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It looked like someone had taken pieces from different machines and just stuck them together without any real plan. Most of the alien engineers laughed when they first saw it. Their advanced scanners and complex measurement tools could not make sense of the weapon. Some parts looked like they came from old Earth military technology. Other parts seemed to be modified alien technology that should not even be possible to combine. "This is what we're supposed to use against the void swarm?" asked Krell, a senior alien engineer. His tentacle-like appendages waved in what was clearly a gesture of disbelief. "This looks like something a child would build from random parts in a junkyard." Wong said nothing. He never talked much. Instead, he simply picked up the rifle and began to demonstrate. The weapon was a quantum-entangled rifle. It could do things that should be impossible. Normal rifles shoot in straight lines. This rifle could shoot around corners. It could pass through solid objects. It could hit targets in different dimensions. Most weapons worked by simple physics. You aim. You shoot. The bullet goes in a straight line. This weapon broke all those rules. The testing facility was massive. It had been built deep underground, in a location that nobody knew except for a few top military leaders. Massive protective shields surrounded the area. Multiple backup systems were in place. If something went wrong, the entire facility could be sealed in moments. Wong began to set up his first test. The alien engineers watched. The human military experts watched. Nobody believed this would work. The target was a complex holographic projection. It showed a simulation of the void swarm's molecular structure. The projection changed constantly, showing how the swarm could adapt and modify its own body in milliseconds. Most weapons would be useless against such a target. How do you hit something that can change its shape faster than you can see? Wong did not move like a typical soldier. His movements were slow, careful, precise. He seemed to become part of the weapon. His breathing matched the rhythm of the complex machinery. His eyes did not blink. His body did not move. The first shot happened so fast that most people did not even see it. One moment, the holographic projection was there. The next moment, it was completely destroyed. Not just damaged, not just broken. Completely and totally eliminated. Silence filled the room. The alien engineers looked at their screens. They looked at their complex measurement tools. They looked at each other. Nobody could understand what had just happened. Impossible, Krell said. His tentacle-like appendages now moved slowly, showing complete shock. Wong simply reset the target and prepared for another shot. The quantum-entangled rifle was more than a weapon. It was a statement. It showed how humans could take different technologies, different ideas, and combine them in ways that no one else could imagine. The rifle could shoot through dimensions. It could hit targets that were not even in the same reality. It could destroy something before that thing even knew it was under attack. Most of the alien engineers still did not believe what they had seen. They ran more tests. They checked their equipment. They argued about the results. But Wong knew the truth. This weapon could save the galaxy. And he was ready to use it. Space was silent. But it was not empty. A massive platform drifted between star systems. It looked like nothing special, just a collection of metal and technology. To most eyes, it would seem like a random piece of space junk. But this was no ordinary platform. This was humanity's last hope. Wong Kim had been in position for 17 days. 17 days of perfect stillness. No movement. No sound. No rest. Most humans would go crazy sitting in one position for so long. Most humans would need to move, to stretch, to do something. But Wong was not most humans. His body was a machine. His mind was a computer. He could stay perfectly still for weeks if needed. The platform had special systems: artificial gravity, temperature control, oxygen recycling. But Wong did not use most of these systems. He controlled his own body better than any machine could. His eyes never blinked. His breathing was so slow that special sensors could barely detect it. He was more like a statue than a living being. The quantum-entangled rifle was connected directly to his nervous system. It was not just a weapon. It was an extension of his body. Every tiny movement of his muscles, every electrical signal in his brain, was calculated and processed by the weapon's complex systems. Monitors around him showed massive amounts of data, complex charts, changing graphs, information that would look like nonsense to most people. But to Wong, it was a language that told him exactly what was happening in the vast darkness of space. The void swarm was coming. It was not a simple enemy. It was a living cloud of destruction. Imagine something that could change shape faster than you could think. Something that could eat entire planets in moments. Something that had no real form, but could become anything it wanted. Most weapons would be useless against such an enemy. How do you shoot something that is not really there? How do you fight something that can change its entire structure in a millisecond? But Wong had a plan. The quantum-entangled rifle was more than a weapon. It was a mathematical solution to an impossible problem. It could shoot through dimensions. It could hit targets that were not even in the same reality. Hours passed. Days passed. Wong did not move. The alien scientists who had laughed at the weapon now watched with total concentration. Their most advanced scanners were pointed at the platform. They were recording every single piece of data. Suddenly, something changed. The void swarm appeared, not in one place, everywhere. It was a massive cloud that covered entire star systems, billions of light years of pure destruction. Most weapons would not even try to fight something this big. Most weapons would give up. Wong did not give up. His finger moved, just a little, less than a millimeter. The shot happened so fast that no one could see it, not with normal eyes, not with normal sensors. One moment, the void swarm was there, covering everything, destroying everything. The next moment, it was gone. Complete silence filled the space around the platform. No movement, no sound, nothing. Had it worked, or had something gone wrong? The alien scientists checked their monitors. They ran their complex scans. They looked at their data. And then they began to understand. Wong Kim had just saved the entire galaxy. The silence was loud. Kravik's crystal body actually shook. The lead Galactic Council member had never experienced real shock before. Beams of living crystal were not supposed to shake. But right now, Kravik was shaking. The holographic displays showed nothing where the void swarm had been. Complete emptiness. No destruction. No remaining enemy. Just nothing. Chunho Park stood in the emergency command center. His hands were folded behind his back. He watched the alien representatives try to understand what had just happened. Their faces, or what passed for faces among these different species, showed total confusion. "Explain," Doran said. His remaining limbs moved in quick, nervous patterns. The Zenthuri representative looked like he could not believe what he was seeing. Area, the Nebulan representative, was even more confused. Her fluid body kept changing colors. Blues, greens, purples mixing together in a way that showed pure confusion and shock. The military communication channels were going crazy. Millions of messages, thousands of different languages. But they all said the same thing. The void swarm was gone. Not defeated. Not damaged. Completely gone. Chunho knew exactly what had happened. But he also knew the aliens would not believe him if he simply told them. Humans had learned long ago that showing was always better than telling. "We need to see the mission logs," Kravik said. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. "We need to understand how this happened." The mission logs were brought up on the main screen. They showed everything. Every tiny detail of Wong Kim's mission. How he had prepared. How he had waited. How he had made the impossible shot. The alien scientists began to analyze the data. Their complex machines worked overtime. Scanning. Checking. Rechecking. Most of them could not understand what they were seeing. The shot that Wong had taken broke every known law of physics. It was not just a shot. It was a mathematical solution to an impossible problem. The quantum-entangled rifle had done something that should not be possible. A human did this. Doran asked. His voice showed total disbelief. Chunho simply nodded. The room was filled with screens showing different views of space. Where the void swarm had been, there was now nothing. Complete emptiness. No trace remained of an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. Kravik's crystal body continued to shake. "Impossible," the alien leader said, but the word had no power now. It was just a sound. The alien scientists kept looking at the data. They ran more tests. They checked their equipment. They could not understand how a single human, using a weapon that looked like it was made from random parts, could destroy an enemy that had eaten entire planets. Chunho watched them. He knew what they were feeling. During the first meeting, these same aliens had looked down on humans. They had seen humans as clumsy, unprepared, not ready for galactic politics. Now everything had changed. The Galactic Council meeting room was completely silent. Screens showed the empty space where the void swarm had been. Millions of saved star systems, billions of lives rescued by a single human. with a weapon that looked like a mistake. Chunho allowed himself a small smile. Humans were good at doing the impossible, and they were just getting started. The galaxy would never be the same again. The research began immediately. Scientists from 100 different alien species gathered to understand how humans worked. They wanted to know how a species that seemed so random could be so dangerous. How could something that looked so clumsy be so powerful? Wong Kim became the most studied human in history, but he did not care. He remained the same quiet person he had always been. The research showed strange things. Things that made no sense to the alien scientists. Humans looked weak. Their bodies were soft. They could be hurt easily. They did not have natural weapons like many other species. They could not survive in most environments. They seemed to be the most breakable species in the galaxy. But they were not breakable. They were flexible. When humans faced a problem, they did not think like other species. Other species had strict rules, strict ways of doing things. If something did not work, they would keep trying the same method. Humans were different. Humans would look at a problem and break all the rules. The quantum entangled rifle was a perfect example. Most weapon designers would never combine technologies like that. It should not have worked. By all normal rules of science, the weapon was impossible. But humans did not care about normal rules. The alien scientists discovered something else interesting. What looked like random human movements was actually complex problem-solving. When a human seemed to be moving without purpose, they were actually thinking. Chunho Park was asked to explain human behavior. He sat in a special research center, surrounded by alien scientists from different species. Humans adapt, he explained. We do not see problems as fixed things. We see them as puzzles to solve. The alien scientists recorded everything. They studied human history. They looked at how humans had developed on Earth. A small planet, limited resources, constant challenges. Humans had survived ice ages. They had survived massive climate changes. They had survived when other species would have died. Not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most creative. The Void Swarm had been a perfect enemy for humans. An enemy that changed. An enemy that could not be defeated by normal methods. Most species would have given up. Humans saw it as a challenge. Wong Kim's training showed this perfectly. He had been prepared to wait, to watch, to understand. Most soldiers were trained to act quickly. Humans could wait for years if needed. The alien scientists discovered something else. Human brains worked differently. Most species had fixed thinking patterns. Humans could change how they thought. They could look at a problem from many different directions. Chaos is not weakness, one alien scientist wrote in his report. Chaos is a strategy. Humans could become whatever they needed to become. A soldier, a diplomat, a scientist, a problem solver. They were not fixed. They were always changing. The research continued for months. Every day, the alien scientists learned something new about humans. Chunho Park watched all of this with a small smile. He remembered how the Galactic Council had looked down on humans during their first meeting, how they had seen humans as clumsy and unimportant. Now everything had changed. The galaxy was beginning to understand. Humans were not just another species. They were something else entirely. A species that could do the impossible. And they were just getting started. The meeting room was different this time. Gone were the complicated alien technologies that had seemed so impressive during the first meeting. Now, the room was simple, practical, something that both humans and aliens could understand. Chunho Park sat at the center of the table. But this time, he was not the nervous diplomat from before. Now, he was a representative of a species that had saved the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council members looked different too. Kravik's crystal body no longer seemed as sharp and dismissive. Aria's fluid form moved with respect now. Doran's remaining limbs were careful, almost gentle. Humans will be invited to join the Galactic Council, Kravik said. The words came out like a simple fact. No argument. No discussion. Chunho knew what this meant. It was more than just an invitation. It was a complete change in how the galaxy saw humans. Before the Void Swarm incident, humans had been seen as a young species. Interesting, but not important. Now, everything was different. The diplomatic documents were complex. Hundreds of pages, thousands of rules. But Chunho understood them quickly. Humans were good at understanding complex systems. They were good at finding ways around problems. "We want you to help us redesign our defense systems," Doran said. His voice was different now, no longer angry or dismissive. Now, there was something like respect. Chunho understood what this really meant. The aliens were not just asking for help. They were admitting they needed help, that their old ways of doing things did not work anymore. The meeting room had windows that showed space. Stars moved slowly. Distant planets glowed softly. Everything looked peaceful now. But everyone in the room knew how close they had been to total destruction. One human had saved everything. Wong Kim was not in the diplomatic meeting. He was still in training, still preparing, still watching, always watching. The perfect soldier who had become a galactic hero without even trying to be one. The diplomatic documents were signed. Chunho's hand moved carefully. Each signature was important. Each line meant something big. Humans would now have a real voice in galactic politics, not just as a small species, but as a key member, a species that could solve problems that no one else could solve. "We want to understand how you think," Arya said. Her fluid body moved in complex patterns that showed deep interest. "How you see problems differently." Chunho explained something important. Humans did not see problems as fixed things. They saw problems as puzzles, as challenges to solve. Where other species would give up, humans would find a new way. The alien representatives listened carefully. They recorded everything, every word, every movement. The meeting lasted hours, but it did not feel long. It felt like the beginning of something big, something important. Humans had changed the galaxy, and they were just getting started. Outside the meeting room, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. Planets continued to turn. But everything was different now. The galaxy had a new understanding. Humans were not just another species. They were something else, something special. Chunho Park looked at the alien representatives. They looked back at him. No more looking down. No more thinking humans were weak. Now, they saw humans as they really were, problem solvers, defenders, a species that could do the impossible. The Galactic Council meeting ended, but a new chapter for the entire galaxy was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Void Swarm incident. The galaxy looked different now. Humans were everywhere, not because they were taking over, but because other species wanted them around. Wong Kim's rifle became a museum piece, but it was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol, a reminder of how one person could change everything. Military bases across different star systems now trained soldiers using human methods, flexible thinking, creative problem solving, patience. Things that used to be seen as weaknesses were now considered strengths. Chunho Park walked through the main Galactic Council building. His steps were different now, more confident. He was no longer the nervous diplomat from years ago. Now he was a key leader, someone other species listened to. The building itself showed how things had changed. It was not just a place of alien technology anymore. Human designs were everywhere. Simple, practical, effective. Most alien species had learned an important lesson. Being advanced did not mean being perfect. Being powerful did not mean being unbeatable. Humans had shown that creativity was the most powerful weapon. Kravik, the crystal being who once looked down on humans, now worked closely with human diplomatic teams. The alien's body had changed. It moved more flexibly now, almost like it was learning from human ways of thinking. Arya, the Nebulan representative, had become a close friend of Chunho. Their communication was not just about words anymore. It was about understanding, about seeing problems from different angles. The quantum entangled rifle technology had changed everything. Scientists from 100 different species were now working together, trying to understand how humans could combine technologies in ways nobody else could imagine. Military strategies changed. Diplomatic approaches changed. Even how different species thought about problem-solving changed. Wong Kim was now a special advisor, not just a soldier, but a teacher. He taught other species how humans thought, how they approached challenges, how they could turn what looked like weakness into strength. Earth had become a center of galactic activity, not because humans were forcing themselves on other species, but because other species wanted to learn from humans. Young aliens came to study on Earth. They wanted to understand human schools, human ways of thinking, human creativity. The void swarm was gone, but the lessons remained. Junho remembered the first meeting, how the aliens had looked down on humans, how they had seen humans as clumsy and unimportant. Now, everything was different. In military academies across the galaxy, students learned about the human approach. Flexibility, creativity, the ability to break rules and find new solutions. Wong Kim's rifle was not just a weapon anymore. It was a lesson. A reminder that the most powerful thing was not technology. It was how you use that technology. The galaxy was healing. Planets that had been destroyed by the void swarm were being rebuilt. And humans were helping. Not because they wanted to be heroes, but because helping was the right thing to do. Kravik gave a speech at a special ceremony. The crystal being's words were broadcast across thousands of star systems. Humans showed us something important. Kravik said, "Power is not about being the strongest. Power is about being the most creative, about finding solutions when no solutions seemed possible." Junho stood nearby. He thought about how far they had come. From that first nervous meeting to saving the entire galaxy. Outside, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. Planets continued to turn. But everything was different now. Humans were no longer just another species. They were something else, something special. A species that could do the impossible. And they were just getting started.